So sit back, hang in there, and oh, we are live now. Aloha, everybody. Welcome to another, this meeting is being recorded. Welcome to another dose of positivity, where I have the great honor and privilege to interview change makers, thought leaders, health practitioners, all who put social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors. And today, our special guest, Cindy Evans, is no exception. She is amazing, and I can't wait to get to this interview. I'm kind of jumping out of my seat, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. And I'll welcome everybody who's listening live in the Facebook group as well to please put any questions or comments in there. We will get to them and bring them to the live show. And to anybody who's listening to the recording, thank you so much, and thank you for subscribing to our channels, whether it's on our YouTube channel or on Audible or on, I want to say Shopify, but you know what I mean, the other one, with the Anchor. Yes. So anyway, we are so happy to have you guys all coming into the studio today here on the Big Island, where the winds are blowing and the sky is absolutely stunning. And I'm so grateful to be alive. And I'm also grateful to let you all know in full transparency that this topic that we're speaking about today is one of my favorites. And I have an immense amount of goosebumps, if you guys could see me right now, because my mom and my dad and everybody who I have grieved for and continue to carrying on in my life are with me right now. And that's why it might sound like I'm on speed, because they are here with me saying, right on, Donna, keep bringing this on. This topic is so important. And that leads me to the story that I'm going to read. And it's a little bit longer than I normally read, but it's very worth it. And I may cry, and that's okay. And mom's with me right now. And this story, and thank you, Cindy, for allowing me to share this, because you wait till you hear Cindy's story, it'll blow your mind. But here we go. This story is in my book, Living Like the Future Matters, The Evolution of a Soul-to-Soul Entrepreneur. And if you like this story and you like, today we're offering anybody, you can just drop your email in and we will send you a free copy of this 400-page book, which is full of wisdom and great stories like this. So I encourage anybody to do so. So it's called Letting Go, Moving On. And I don't know if you guys can all see this. Hopefully you can. That's a picture of me and my mom. Oops, there we go. In Alaska. I'm 26 years old and my mom is 49. Holding on is not always a sign of strength. There are times when it takes more strength and courage to accept and let go. Love is more potent than anything, and it outlives death. And then my story begins. Everything was alive and thriving except my mom, who was dying. The doctors ran out of treatments to save her, and she knew it. Before I went to Florida to visit my parents, I prepared my body, mind, and returned to a yoga ashram in the Bahamas. During the winter, this relaxing place had been a refuge for me to recoup before visiting my folks in their winter Boca Raton residence. The tropical island was just a few short flights away. Surrounded by supportive spiritual people in this idyllic Bahamas setting, I reflected on the significant changes in my life. We meditated and chanted twice a day for hours in the open air temple. We practiced yoga between nutritious meals and enjoyed an hour of beach time every day. I had connected with a woman attending the yoga retreat who had just lost her mother to cancer. One day we strolled down the beach together and I asked, "How were you able to cope with your mother's death?" Her insightful words of wisdom were, Let her go, and she will always be with you. I let go right there. I cried harder than I had ever cried in my whole life. On that white sandy beach, both of us bawled our eyes out, fully experienced profound grief, interwoven with the celebration of life. We held space for each other as the sea lapped against the shores and the warm sand embraced our feet. I gained more enlightenment from our conversation in nature than I had received from a week chanting, meditating, and doing yoga. After the retreat, my mom and I had our last earnest conversation that would change my life forever. It was a sunny, hot, beautiful day at the condo. My mom, she was wrapped in a white wool blanket and sitting on her recliner chair, her back to the large window. As I sat across from her, the palm trees swayed and the sun streamed in. She confided in me saying, "I'm ready to go, Donna." I did not resist this time. She asked me to talk to my dad and brothers and to ask them to please tell them to stop treating me like a sporting event, pushing me to beat the damn thing, she continued. "I'm not fighting anymore, Donna." Even though it wasn't easy, I was now ready for this conversation, which started the letting go process for both of us. Doing my best to soothe the tense moment, I asked my mom, "What will you do in your next lifetime?" How was my atheist mother going to answer that question? She paused for a long minute. She slipped her reading glasses down from the bridge of her nose, and she looked at me straight in the eyes. Her big, beautiful brown eyes pierced my soul even before a word came out of her mouth, and then she spoke. "I'll come back as a successful businesswoman. Yes, that's what I would love to do." Hold on a second. While I wrote this story, I felt her presence in my soul and bawled my eyes out. How awesome was my mom? She knew this was what I wanted. This was her way of giving me the ultimate blessing and approval for how I was conducting my life. 6 months later, I held space for this beautiful being as she took her last breath in a sterile hospital room. My father and brother were at their annual father and son golf tournament, trying to just enjoy some quality time as they too had been by my mother's bedside for days. I promised my father I'd make sure my mom wasn't in any pain and that I would not leave her side until she got back. Within an hour after they went, my mom took a turn, and the doctors informed me that there was nothing they could do and that she was passing. Unable to contact my dad and brothers, I lay down next to my mother in that hospital bed, and I held her until her last breath. It was prominent for me to recognize that it was time to let go of my sweet mama so that she could go with grace. With tears streaming down my face, I talked her through her passing, helping to take her mind to a peaceful place, a better life without pain, and into a new embodiment. I told her how much I loved her and how much her life had meant to me and all those who knew her. I felt my mother acknowledge my presence and knew she felt safe with me. I witnessed her magnificent aura transcend, and we embraced in spirit. I was 27 and she was 50. We both let go. Her genuine and compassionate ways and unconditional loves and gifts live on within every fiber of my being. I came to understand that the fertility of love never dies, and precious memories last for an eternity. And I still have that white blanket. Woo! Thank you guys so much for allowing me to share that with you. And this is a picture of my living aura. There's a guy here, and there are people who do this. And I'm not going to go into this now. And if you've never had the opportunity to experience that, I mean, it totally transformed, changed my way of dealing with grief and love and acceptance. And not everybody has the opportunity to know when someone's going to pass or sudden accidents happen, like Cindy's going to talk with us about. But there are ways that we can all help each other while we're alive, putting our affairs in order. And just like my mom telling me she'd be a successful businesswoman, and what did I do with my life? So she's with me all the time. So is my dad. So is these dogs and all these people that I love. So that's my belief. So much that I'm writing a book about it, and so is Cindy. And we're going to talk all about that in a minute. But before we do, Cindy, I just want to thank again everybody who's on the live show, everybody who's in the Facebook Lives for being here today. And this will be recorded, so you can come back and listen to it again. But Cindy is this. We met through a mutual friend a while back, and when I met her, she had recently lost her son. And I'm going to read you her bio, and then you guys are all welcome to share and come in with any stories that you want to share, any way that you can bring comfort to this conversation, this very important conversation. So everybody meet Cindy. Cindy, you can wave to everybody. Cindy is a self-improvement coach. She is an epic human. She's passionate about helping individuals achieve their best selves. With an extensive fitness and health background and still got the little tears going on. Fitness and health background and a training as an intelligence operation coach, Cindy brings a very profound and unique perspective to her coaching. She is a public speaker, she's a podcaster, and she is also the upcoming author of a new book, and she's going to tell you about that soon. She inspires her audiences with her self-growth and personal development knowledge. But Cindy is more than just a coach. She is a Harley motorcyclist who has explored all of Canada and many of the US states. She's a former fitness competitor, a golfer, and now a pickleball enthusiast. That kind of gives your age away right there. Cindy is a mother of two and has been married to her retired military husband for 28 years. And Cindy has lived a life of action, serving herself in the military in her younger years as an Army medic, jumping out of military aircrafts and serving on a UN tour in, I can't say this, is Croatia.
Croatia.
That's how you spell Croatia for 6 months, when she was just 24. Wow, I'm going to hear about this. Is incredible. With her motto, prepare, live life now, Cindy lives by a sense of duty and service to others. She sees the big pictures for others, even when they don't see it for themselves. So I want you all to get ready to unlock your full potential with Cindy, who is our very honored guest speaker today. So Cindy, welcome to the show.
Well, I am very pleased to be here with you, Donna. Like, your story was very touching to me. I started to get hot listening to you. So something was speaking through me as well.
Oh, that's so cool. That's always a good sign. I had goosebumps. You were getting hot. So Cindy, tell us now, like, to opening up the this interview, what have you been reflecting on life I mean, you've had this incredible background. I want to thank you for your service, and your husband too, as well, to our country. And you being a medic, you saw a lot, but really it wasn't until your 21-year-old son, he died in a car accident just about 17 months ago, right? And now it's made you stop and reflect on life and the lessons that have come out of this for you. Can you please touch upon that? A very different experience than mine, but very much pertaining to grief and how you carry on.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I was sitting on a bench a year after my son died, a memorial bench close to our house. It's in the woods and it's by a river. And I was sitting on the bench asking the universe, what do I do next? Why did my son die? And I was sitting there reassessing my life. Like, I've done a lot of great things and I've lived a great life, but where do I go to now? Who's Cindy now? And they call a parent who's lost a child a Viloma. And that means the Sanskrit word Viloma means against the natural order. And it really is against the natural order to lose a child before yourself. I would never have imagined, and I mean, no parent wants to ever imagine that. But now that I'm upon it, I need to get through it, right? I'm not going to necessarily leave it behind, but I'm going to grow through it. And that's part of the book title, Reflecting on Life and Growing Through Grief. And when I asked the universe or asked my son, like, what should I do next? The title of the book came to my mind. And at first it was reassessing life, because I was sitting there on the bench reassessing, like, where do I go from here? Now, if you've been through perimenopause or menopause and you're in the age group that I'm in the 50s, you start really reassessing your life. Like, did I do enough? Am I doing enough now? What's my next chapter in life? And that's kind of where the book has come from. So it's not just about growing through the grief, but also it's an accumulation of all the things that we do every day to make us the people that we are today. And so I talk about, in the first, I have 3 sections of the book. And the first section is why this book and the pivotal moment. We all have a pivotal moment, and I call it a pattern interrupt. How many of you put in the chat have had a pattern interrupt in your life where something has halted you from doing your normal course of action? It could be a divorce, it could be a separation, could be the loss of a best friend or a parent or a close one that you love, or it could be a job loss, or it could be the shutdown of the world. Everybody experienced a little bit of that during COVID, right? And so that's a pivotal moment. And what we've learned in our life, our coping mechanisms and the things that we turn to in our daily habits and our daily rituals will get us through the toughest parts in life. There are a lot of people out there that don't have very good practices on a daily or monthly schedule. And so moving forward is the section 2 of the book. And then the section 3 is legacy and choosing your destiny and what will you be known for? And so my son has given me a gift in a way, in the fact that he stopped me for the first time in my life. And I'm 53 now. And he stopped me and made me think about what Cindy wants. What am I here for? And also, how am I going to recognize or remember my son? And so this book has been kind of a journey and a cathartic growing experience for me. I'm not a writer. I'm probably the worst person at writing, and Grammarly tells me that when I put stuff through the grammar, it shows all the punctuation and all of that. So and the cool thing is, like, and I posted something on Facebook the other day about, it doesn't matter how old you are or how great or how bad you are at something, just do it and learn from it and grow through it. right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that with every death comes a rebirth. And if we have the right attitude, right, we have the right mindset, is not final. I mean, that's what I hear you saying. And it's how we choose to approach it. And I love to use the word cathartic, and writing this book. For some people, it could be writing music. For some people, it could be changing careers, or physically moving out of a home into something new and different. Whereas for other people, it could be mourning and grieving and suffering for our entire lives.
Mhm.
And what I hear you saying is that you chose the latter, and to honor and to really acknowledge the gift of your son, and him vicariously pushing you through, like my mom has done for me. And I just love that shows such strength. It's that, like, letting go. Sometimes letting go is where you find that strength, and where you rebuild. So share with us, like, some things that you have done in regards to your background as being a medic, and also being in the fitness world. Some of those tools that you are, besides this beautiful book you're birthing, um, that you're incorporating, that to help you get through this time. Because I'm sure I can't imagine. I have one son and a granddaughter, and when I think about what you had to do and get through that. So how does your bag of tricks, or what can you offer all of us to help with grieving?
Well, part of my book also talks about identifying the need for change and tying it into my military days. When I was 23, I really wanted to parachute out of Canadian aircraft. A lot of people would say, "What the heck? Like, why would anybody want to do that?" But it was a goal of mine when I was in Army cadets to do that. But my dad wouldn't sign the papers to allow me to do it when I was 17 or 18. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to join the Army then, and I'm going to do it on my own. And so when I got in the military, it was a very tough course for a woman to do. You had to be able to do 7 full arm chin-ups. You had to run a mile in 7 minutes or less, 50 full push-ups. Like, it was a very grueling course. Many women don't do it, don't even want to attempt to do it. But it was something that was on my bucket list of things to do. And when I jumped out of the plane, for the first time, the feeling I got was a moment of peace. It was so peaceful sailing through the sky. I mean, I was not sailing, I was like plummeting to the ground, but it just felt so heavenly to be to do that. And I loved it so much that I couldn't wait to get back up in the plane and do the second jump. And I had to do 7 jumps to complete this course to get my parachute wings. And on the 4th jump, I actually collided parachutes with another parachutist, because what you're doing is jumping out of a big airplane like a C-130, and there's 2 doors that you exit out of, and a guy was jumping out the other side, and I was the only female on the course, by the way, and I jumped out the other side, and we both came under the plane. And well, the plane was already that way, but we both came under, and the first thing you do is look out for another parachutist, and the parachutist was above me. And I looked up, and there he is, and our parachutes are tangled. And I think, oh my God, I said to him, like, I had a moment of panic, and I said, oh my God, what are we going to do? And he said, we're going in together. And the way he said he sounded like so calm, like he was John Wayne or Clint Eastwood or something like that. It's like, what? But he gave me a sense of calmness, and I thought, okay, I better get my crap together here. And as a medic, an Army medic, I knew that if I landed tangled like that, I was either going to bust a leg, bust a back, or die. And we're plummeting to the ground, and I had a 35 to 50 pound rucksack in front of me. So I had all of my kit with me. I had a set of snowshoes, a rifle and this 35-pound pack, and you're supposed to dump it before you hit the ground. Like when you get close to the ground, I can't remember how close to the ground for feet, but you're supposed to get rid of it before you land. Well, we couldn't do that because we were tangled right till the end. And I was praying in midair thinking, I'm 23. I haven't even married the man of my dreams. I met the man of my dreams. I was dating him. I said, I haven't had children yet. I haven't been married. Like, please, God, let me get through this. And miraculously, the parachutes separated right before we hit the ground. And I landed safely. I got up and I yelled over to the guy. I said, are you okay? Being a medic, I want to check on somebody else first. So I didn't care about myself. I cared about the other person. And he says, yeah, I'm okay. And we both got rid of our parachutes and went over and hugged each other. And I thought, oh my gosh, we just dodged a big bullet here. Like, you know, we are very fortunate. And I walked away without a bruise.
Wow.
So somebody was making sure that I did have a son and that I did get married. But the lesson in this is that that was the moment where I knew that parachuting wasn't going to be in my in the cards for the rest of my life. As much as I love doing it, it was a warning to me, like, don't like it too much. And so that was identifying the need for change. So that was one instance where I listened to the universe telling me, like, don't get too acquainted with this, because I mean, jumping out of planes can be dangerous, right? Not many people really want to do that, but yeah. So that's kind of part of the story that I weave into my book. And another time I was actually a trainer at another woman's gym, and my kids were young, and I thought, well, we were living on one income at the time, and I gave up my military career to marry my husband because the military wouldn't post us together. They posted him at one end of Canada and they wanted to keep me at the other end. It's like, I don't see my married life being separated for 2 or 3 years. Like, here's my 30-day release. And I got out at the age of 25. And then I became a personal trainer. And when I was a trainer, when my first baby came, I realized how much I loved being a mom and how much a baby changed the way I thought about life. And I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. But as the kids got a little bit older, I realized that we needed to bring in a little bit more income. And so I took on a part-time job, and the job was 45 minutes away. And we lived in the country in a log home on an acreage. And I drove into the city, into the capital city of Canada, which is Ottawa. And it was a 45-minute drive in good weather. And then with Canadian weather in the winter, we have some pretty bad roads here. And I was driving in, I was thinking, I was having dreams about going off the road and having an accident. And I told one of my clients this, and she was a woman, probably like you ladies, who are more kind of spiritually gifted and see the signs or feel the signs, maybe even. And she said, Cindy, you have to listen to these dreams. If you're having bad dreams about going off the road, that's a sign that you shouldn't be doing this. And I thought that was very nice of her to tell me that, because I was going to be leaving her as a trainer. I wouldn't be her trainer anymore if I quit. And I ended up quitting that job and going back to my children. And I just felt like it just wasn't right, me leaving my kids and doing that and taking that risk on the roads to make a minimal amount of money and pay a sitter, pay daycare. And also my husband was going to be going away for a mission that he was going to be out of the country for 4 months. And so we lived, he worked in the special operations unit for 17 years. So he'd be called out in the middle of the night and be gone for, I don't know how long. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know how much danger he was in. I didn't know when he was coming home. I didn't know where he was. And I was raising 2 young children during all of that time. So having a job, worrying about the job, worrying about my kids, worrying about my husband, that was just, it wasn't in the cards. And so listening to the signs meant that I've been able to pull through and still be married and still be in love after 30 years of being with the same man, which is an accomplishment in itself, right, Donna?
Oh, absolutely.
Like most military couples, I mean, most couples, or they say married couples, like the success rate is 50%. So.
Right. Well, you know what? One of the real takeaways from all of those that you're sharing, it comes back to letting go. You know, you letting go of the idea that, you know, if you like, prayer is really important, and I'm not a religious person, and letting go of the woo 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 that people don't believe that their intuition is more valuable than what someone tells you you should be doing. I mean, our intuition is so overshadowed by all the noise out there. And I don't care if you're Jewish or Hindu or even an atheist, as long as there's that belief and that trusting, and that's one of the things that on A Dose of Positivity we really encourage people to listen to their inner self. And I think that also comes when, you know, and I'm writing this book, and I think most people know it's called Death, What Is It Good For? And it's really important to have these conversations, whether it's the death of the idea of jumping out of an airplane, it's that is going to be your career, like allowing yourself, like, not to hold on to that ego, and to be able to let go of, like, there's maybe something better for me or more for me. I've been there, I've done that, I can let it go. I'm not going to let my military father or whatever who says you got to do this, you're going to, you know, there's 3 generations or whatever. And sometimes you let go of even a toxic family relationship, and that can be very painful at first. Any kind of grief or die off, it is painful. And one of the things that I really admire about you, I mean, well, a lot of things, but I mean, you really letting go of the of wallowing and following your intuition, not just to write this book, not just to come out and speak, but to speak to this. And I think it would be really helpful for people to hear how you keep your son alive with you, besides just this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how like, for any of us, you know, like I shared with you my story, my mom lives vicariously through me. And I still grieve, but it's like almost happiness every time my mother comes to visit me. Sometimes I have to even talk to her. I'm sorry, you guys, woo woo for you, but I do. So, and other things too. But I'm going to get to that later. So, can you share a little bit about, first of all, what is your son's name, so that we can all acknowledge him in this conversation and bring him here with us? And I'm going to
Dylan.
welcome. Hi, Dylan. Dylan, thank you for being here with us, honey. I'm going to acknowledge your beautiful mother and thank her for bringing you here with her today. So if you could just share, like getting through each day, like a lot of, I know there's other people for sure on this live that I know personally who have lost a child. So, and one of the women actually does, she's a yoga professional, and she lost a child, and she does grieving retreats. So that's her way of contributing. Like you said, you're a medic, you help people first. So how can you help us or anybody who's listening to this?
Thank you, Donna. You know, just having me here is honoring Dylan, and I'm sure Dylan would be very happy that he's being remembered and honored. And I think that one of the best things that people can do when they honor somebody who has lost either a child or a spouse or a parent, or I have like a do's and don'ts section of my book. And some people are afraid to talk to people about the person who's deceased. And I like talking about Dylan. It keeps his memory alive. And he left behind a girlfriend that I didn't know he had. He had only been dating her for a month, and he was about to introduce her to us. And she came to the celebration of life. And the I met her, and I had an instant feeling that she was a great person, and I invited her to supper the following week. And through her, I was able to just feel like a connection between her and my son. And she asked me if I would train her, even though I've been a retired trainer for 13 years. She kind of pulled me into, or out of, the grief and into more of living again and being the person that I like to be and helping other people. And so we trained a few times a week, and then we became like really good friends. And even though she's only 20, when I met her, she just seemed like an old soul, and it was really good to get to know her and live through, like, live with Dylan and her. And so when I talk about don't be afraid to talk to somebody about their person that they've lost, it actually makes us feel good to remember them and remember stories. And you know what I mean? Like, even I have a friend who died in a motorcycle accident. She was 53 when she died. She had spent 30 years in the military, and she was close to retirement. And I was so grief stricken about that, because she was such an awesome person, and she worked so hard, and she didn't get to spend retirement years with her husband.
Yeah. Whoa. She's so beautiful. I feel her. What's her name?
Oh my gosh, it's Donna.
Oh, Donna,
Her
welcome.
name is Donna. Yeah.
Welcome to the live, Donna.
And
we got Dylan and Donna on the live.
And I reach out to her husband, Greg, quite often. And if a Facebook memory pops up of us on our motorcycles together, or an event that her and I had been at, I send a snapshot. He's not on Facebook, so I send him the picture of that memory. And he likes it, like, because it keeps him connected to her, right? And so that's what why I'm telling you this story, is because people like to talk about, but not everybody, maybe some people don't want to. And I'll give you an example. I rode my motorcycle home to the Gaspé, which is in Quebec, the farthest, the edge of Canada, Eastern Canada, with a couple of other motorcycle girls. I have a motorcycle club, a women's club, and 4 of us went there, and my family has a farm there, and we stayed there for a night or two. And nobody in my family, except for a niece, a nephew's wife, asked me about my son. Like, no one mentioned anything about, and this was like not far after he had passed. Like, he passed in October of 2021, and I drove to the Gaspé in July the next year, and no one mentioned my son. I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with people? Like, my own family wouldn't talk about it with me. And I thought that was weird. And I wish that they would have asked me, like, how are you doing? Like, tell us more about whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, and we'll pop in. I wrote a piece on this in my recent newsletter, and we'll pop it in the blog. And that's like number one key thing to help us all get through grief is to be able to talk about it. And so have you been able to talk to these family members since that and talk about it, or with them, or do you just let it go?
Well, my family, and I write about this, about being okay with who you are, because a lot of us, and I'm maybe I shouldn't project this out, not a lot of us, but some of us have family members that you weren't close to, or you didn't have a great communication with your mom or your dad or somebody in your family. Well, my parents weren't the huggy lovey kind of people. Like, my dad was military, 25 years. My mom came from a family of 10 kids, post-World War II dad who was a war vet who had PTSD, and he became an alcoholic. And so my grandmother, who came from Britain, she raised these 10 children, from a span of 18 to 43. She had 10 children, her last child at 43. And my mom was one of the older siblings, and gave up school at the grade of 6. grade 6, she gave up school so she could help take care of the younger siblings. And so I'm okay with how my parents were. I understand to a degree that they didn't have the skills or the communication or the emotional intelligence to help me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so when I write the chapter about being okay with who you are, I go back to childhood wounds, and my childhood wound was being perfect because I was a middle child and I had 2 brothers. And I like, no matter how good I was or what I did, nothing was good enough, or I never got recognition from my parents. And so that was a core wound of not being good enough, or that's what I thought. So I had to be perfect. And so this is the whole thing, like how we deal with grief, how our parents deal with grief has to do with how they were raised, and maybe changing the direction of how we go forward as parents and what we can learn and give to our kids, so we break that cycle of low emotional intelligence or spiritual intelligence even too.
Yeah, to me, everything, you just nailed it right there for me on so many levels. This generational denial or of the spirit. And I was very fortunate because I had my mom, she was sick for 18 years. And that's why I started getting into yoga and meditation. And I know my mother lived for 18 years extra by some of what I brought to her. Was this faith in afterlife, this faith in that, the spiritual realm. And we talked about it. But me and her talked about it. But my brothers were treating my mom like a sporting event, right? You got this, you're going to do this. That's what the doctor says. We're going to, and it's like, that's why I feel like, this is not to be morbid, but everybody who's listening to this, you don't have to write a book like myself or Cindy about this, but to get our affairs in order while we're living, while we're feeling great. And this is, write out your celebration of life. What does it look like? How do you want this sister or this brother? I'm not just talking about you get this ring, you get this piece of land. It's like, what's that legacy? Who now, while we're still alive, because then we live on in these people with the wishes that we lay out. And people appreciate that so much. I don't know one person who I'm interviewing for my book who doesn't agree with that. And I'm interviewing rabbis, preachers, mortuary owners, detox specialists, all kinds of people who deal with any kind of death and die off. It's like, you're going to this detox, you're going to feel this way. You're going to be emotional. It's going to be really hard. But when you go through it, because when you get out, you're going to feel amazing. But if you don't know that going into it, if you don't know if people don't know, like your parents, right now, they need, if they know that you want everybody after Cindy dies, you wanted to get around, celebrate, and you wanted to talk about what your life and what it meant. You don't want to feel that that alienation like you did. That's old stuff. That's not helpful stuff. And so we're alive now, and it's talking about, every day we eat something, we poop, it dies, it goes out of our body, right? We don't like to talk about our poops either, but it's a really healthy thing to see that and to see it go away. It's dead shit. We don't need it anymore. So it's like this conversation is so important for all of us, and I challenge everybody because we're even running out of time. This call is just going so fast, but a little exercise for everybody to do is just to write down your last will and testament, not on a legal document, but on a thing. Write a letter to certain people that you love. I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 78 or 90 years old on this call.
Mm-hmm.
Get your affairs in order while you're alive, and then you don't fear death.
And also work on your relationships today. Don't hold off telling somebody that you love them or that you're upset with them. You got to get rid of that baggage and let them know. Because like a part of my training as an intelligence operating systems coach with Bank Technologies, which is Codebreaker Technologies, we all have 4 different personality values. You're either, and you can be all of them, and you'll see in my name on Zoom here is NAKB. That means my first code is nurturing, A is for action, K is for knowledge, and B is for blueprint. When you can understand somebody's first 2 personality values, that's the most important, because that's how you'll talk to them and relate to them. So doing this course made me realize that my mom is not a nurturing and she's not an action. She's a knowledge first. I would never have known that she was knowledge because she only went to grade 6. But that's how she treats me. Knowledge people aren't huggy, warm people. They don't like long conversations. They don't like emotional conversations. They like data. They like to be self-reflective. They like gadgets sometimes. But knowing the different personality codes makes a huge deal in how you relate to people. And relations are probably the most important thing that we have, especially after death and while we're living, right?
Oh,
You
I
have to
am
make people matter.
so excited you brought this up, and actually I don't know if you have that link to the knowledge code. I suggest all of you take this knowledge code.
I just put it in the chat, Donna. So it's a 90-second personality values test.
Oh, it's
And it's
great.
a free test. It takes 90 seconds or less, and you'll get an email with a report saying what code you are, and read it, because it's fascinating to learn about yourself. You may not even know this about yourself. And then have your husband take it or your children take it. My son actually, I didn't realize that he wasn't my code. I thought he was a lot like me, but he actually was knowledge first as well, and a nurturing. Yeah. But he always could, like, we could headbutt with certain things because he wanted to know. If I told him, you really shouldn't smoke pot, because, and a lot of young adults smoke pot, and before the age of 25, it's not recommended. And he'd say, well, show me the information. Well, then I would go and research the information, because then that's what he needed. So when you're headbutting with somebody, whether it's a spouse or an adult child, understanding their code and understanding what kind of information they need, and if you're not knowledge first, you definitely don't want to bring science and resource papers and binders of information to somebody who's action, for instance, or even nurturing, because they don't care about the stats and science and resources. Yeah.
Everybody take that test. It's so cool. And Cindy and I came out with the same code, which I think is so
it's not shocking. And so also the third code, for me, is knowledge. So when I'm stressed, I will go towards knowledge. So like during the pandemic and during like the shots and stuff like that, I would do my research, and I would not listen to the mainstream media, because you can't always trust them, right? And we can't always trust our government to give us the correct information either. So I was doing a deep dive down a rabbit hole of information, because I was stressed about it. And I'm a health coach, so I like to take my personal health into my own personal hands. And so I don't necessarily need the government telling me what's right or wrong when it comes to my health. And I'm sure, Donna, you feel the same way. And you did that knowledge deep dive. So this is where even leaders, like whether you're a leader of a business right now or a leader of a country, you should take this 90-second personality code and learn more about it.
Yay, Cindy, Marcy. Yeah, just put in the chat. Yay. Oh gosh, I love that. These are all these gifts of tools that are out there to help us as we're having these hard conversations with people who start with a K. And we can come at it even with giving them a copy of one of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's books around the subject, who really broke a lot of barriers. And if you're not familiar with her, maybe you could pull up Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She wrote several books. She dealt with death and dying. One of the books is called Death and Dying. And but since her breakthrough stuff, there isn't and then much out, really. I mean, there are grief specialists for sure, and but we taking this into our own hands and really appreciating and understanding that we're all different and we're all going to experience it in our own way, and we all really don't have a clue how we're going to feel when it first happens. But being prepared and being resilient when a storm hits, even if you don't know when it's coming, if you have those tools and you have these things declared or out in the air, it's something to I don't even want to say fall back on. It's something to help hold you up, because we got work to do, all of us, everybody who's on this call and everybody who's listening to this. We got to carry Dylan and your friend Donna. We want to acknowledge them and bring them forward. All my animals, man, I'm telling you, everybody wants to come back in their next life to be one of Donna and Kevin, my husband Kevin, one of our dogs, because the way we treat them. And part of the reason the way we treat them is because we see the spirit of the love of others come through them. Sometimes I call my dog Chester, who's my soulmate, really, I call him Jazz, because I feel my son, I want to bring him in. But Cindy, we're running out of time here. And so I want to welcome anybody. There's some really beautiful comments in the chat. I want to thank everybody for their real comments and your real spiritual essence. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Marcy. Really appreciating your comments. And now's an opportunity for you guys actually to grab the code off the Cracking My Code link, and also grabbing, if you haven't already gotten a free download of Living Like the Future Matters, because I oftentimes forget this. I want to make sure everybody knows how to get that out of the chat. And if you don't, send us a personal message and we will get to you. But I just wanted, it's just really important as we leave and we go throughout our days. And before Cindy, you give some final remarks on how we can spiritually and also physically, mentally take care of ourselves and really take us home. I just want to remind everybody how precious you are, how precious this group is, that every time I have the opportunity, and this is kind of going back to what Cindy said, remember to tell people how much you love them, how much you appreciate them. And I want to take this time to acknowledge everybody who takes their time out of their day to come. I want to also acknowledge that Ellie Abula is going to be coming on next week, who is a biohacker and has dealt with grief herself, but she is a holistic health practitioner. We had her on a show several months ago and people were really wanting her to come back. And Cindy, I'm sure we would love to bring you back on. Once your book is published, we will all be purchasing a copy and sharing it, because I'm sure your words, if they're anything like they were today, they will help all of us. So I would like to just acknowledge also all the speakers who've come on the show. I think we've been on until, we'll have to figure it out, I think it's been over a year now. And to give gratitude to all of them, and how each of those people have shown up for a dose of positivity to affect all of our lives, and how grateful we are to all of them. Just take a second to reach out to Dylan and your friend Donna and my mom and anybody that you love. Bring them in, channel them in. I don't care if you want to close your eyes or just meditate, you want to cry, want to feel it, but take the opportunity. If you have never before, you have the power to bring back the spirit, the soul of anybody you have loved or lost, a dream you had that hasn't been fulfilled. You have much more strength and resilience and fortitude than you think you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive in this crazy world. So use your power, use your intuition, use your own aura. And be open to receiving like the flood of love from those who are no longer physically able to hug you, to spiritually embrace you and live and let them live vicariously through you. Ho. Woo. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to go there. Cindy, thank you for coming on the show. And I would just love for you to close us out with some really positive ways. And we already have. But any final words you want to leave us with before your beautiful book, and also say the name of your book out loud again so we can all help you birth it.
Thank you, Donna. The book's name is Reflecting on Life, Growing Through Grief, and it will be on Amazon. I'm aiming for May 1st. And certainly if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm Cindy Little on LinkedIn, and I have a health, the number 2 wealth Facebook page. And Donna, I think that it's no coincidence that you and I met and that all the people here tonight are here for a reason. And I believe that all of the good podcasts that you do and all of the energy that you send out to the universe to heal people matters. Because I think it does. Like, it takes a tribe and it takes all of us linking arms to help protect each other, help support each other, prop each other up when we need it. And all of the things that you talk about, like outdoor matters, nutrition matters, the hugs, the laughter, the emotional things that we do, talking and meeting in groups like this where people are spiritually enlightened and emotionally enlightened or want that, show up. People show up. And when you show up, you will receive. And when you ask, you will receive. You just need to listen to those clues and look for the signs.
Everybody got that?
So thank you, Donna.
Thank you so much, Cindy. We don't ignore the signs, right? We don't ignore the signs. Until before we close out, is there anything from the Facebook group that we need to know about, or any prayers we need to send out for anybody? Let us know. Anybody who, I'm just going to take a quick peek here. And I think we got lots of positive love going on in here. I just going to say, I'm going to be heading out to get a spiritual massage from an incredible woman who believes in the after matters and who is dealing with an incredibly challenging thing right now, and how she is helping me heal. And my mom died at 50. I am 65, and I'm not going anywhere because she is making sure of that. And I want everybody to believe in the magic, believe in the love, the power of love. Okay, well, everybody, thank you so much again. And we're going to go off the live stream now. And if